In this fourth video, we're looking at the concept of timelines. Now, timelines really just a means of summarizing a number of different deposits or changes in interest rates. So in this particular example, we're starting off initially at T0 with a deposit of 150,000. Okay. This investment is there for a period of 6 years. The interest rate for that entire period is 12% per annum, compounded every half a year. All right? In other words, it is compounded twice a year. So just consider that interest rate for that whole time period there is 12% per annum, and we're doing the transaction twice a year. We are then told that we make a deposit of 8,000 after the first year. So after 1 year, we make another deposit of 8,000 Rand. Then at this point over here, we are going to take out 20,000 Rand. So 5 years after the initial investment. All right, so now we're 5 years down the line. We are going to take out 20,000 Rand. Okay, so in this particular case, essentially we went into the bank 3 times. Our initial deposit was that, 150,000. Then we went in and deposited more money. Then we went in and we took some money out. Now, as the sums become more complicated, it's a really good idea to save your interest rates in your calculator. Right, so if your calculator looks like this, our interest rate in this particular case is going to be 12%, 0.12 divided by 2. Okay, 0.12 divided by 2 equals, in other words, 0.06. Now, we're never going to round off our interest rate, okay? You're always going to work with all your decimal places. And so it's much more convenient to type this into, or to put this into one of your calculator memories. Okay, so I'm going to store it, in this case, in memory A. So I go Shift, Store, A. And what I've done is I've taken this value over here of 0.06 and I have put it into memory A in my calculator. You will see as we have various changing interest rates in a sum, it is much easier to store these in your calculator as opposed to typing them in detail every single time. Okay, so let's have a look and see what's actually happening here. Always take any investment from where it went in to the end of your timeline. Do not break the sum up into lots of little pieces. It gets far too complicated. So my future value is going to be equal to, starting off with that initial deposit of 150,000. 150,000, 1 plus my interest rate, and that particular deposit is there for a period of 6 years, and I am compounding that twice a year. So I'm using an interest rate of 0.12 over 2, and I must therefore multiply my compounding periods by 2. Then it's as though you go into the bank and you make a completely separate transaction. You are now depositing your 8,000 Rand, And that 8,000 Rand is going to sit in the bank for a period of 5 years. The interest rate is exactly the same. It's for a period of 5 years, and I am doing it twice a year. The third time you go into the bank, what you're doing is you're taking out 20,000 Rand. But you're not only taking out that 20,000 Rand, you're going to take that money out and the interest that that money would have earned for a period of 1 year, compounded biannually. And now all we're going to do is type that into our calculators. You can see I'm using the A value several times, so it's much easier to just take the number out of my memory. Right, so my future value becomes 150,000, open bracket, 1 plus, now I need to get that number out of memory A. I go alpha A, close my bracket, raise it to the power of 6 times 2. Okay, now I'm going to add the next deposit. Make sure you move the cursor, otherwise you'll be adding to the exponent. So now I want to add 8,000, 1 plus, again I want to use A, so it's alpha A, close my bracket, raise it to the power, it was 5 years, and it's done twice a year. Again, make sure you move your cursor. We are going to minus 20,000, open your bracket, 1 plus, alpha A, close your bracket. It was for the period of 1 year, so it's to the power of 1 multiplied by 2. And so your final solution here for your future value of this particular investment is 293,684 Rand and 25 cents. So every time you make a new investment, it's like another trip to the bank. You either adding and interest, or you subtracting and interest. All right, now in the second example, you have 5,500 Rand is invested for a period of 4 years in a savings account. Now in this case, you only going into the bank once. Okay, you are only making a deposit here of 5,500. That's your deposit. But what is changing now is the way in which your interest is being worked out. Okay, for the first year, you have simple interest of 11% per annum. All right, so for the first year, your interest rate, and I'm going to do it in red. In this particular case, your interest rate is 11% and it is simple interest. Now, this doesn't often happen where you have both simple and compound interest, because in the real world, the only place you really use simple interest is in a hire purchase agreement. But it's just to make sure that you could do it if it was ever going to be asked. All right, and then your interest rate changes to 12.5% quarterly for the rest of the period. Okay, now we were told that in total we are talking about a 4-year stretch. So for this last part here, for those 3 years, our interest rate is 12.5% per annum, compounded quarterly. Okay, again, we are going to do the sum in one go. We want our future value. We have a present value of 5500. Now, initially, the red interest is going to be simple interest. Okay, 1 plus 11%, and it's for a period of 1 year. Now, this is the total amount of money you have at that point there on your timeline. And this amount of money is then going to be invested at that interest rate for a period of 4 years. So it's like this becomes your new present value. The compound interest that I'm going to work out, I'm going to say that in memory A, it's 12,5%, 0,125 over 4. All right, I'm going to put it in my memory. All right, 0.125 divided by 4 equals, I'm storing it. Shift, store, I'm putting it in memory A. Okay? Right, so this new present value is invested at that interest rate for a period of 3 years, and it is compounded quarterly. So when we work this out, we have 5500, open our bracket, 1 plus 0.11 times 1. We are going to multiply that by 1 plus alpha A, close bracket, raised to the power of 3 times 4. And our future value for this particular investment is 883188. Right, now we're going to do another example, still working on timelines. This time we're going to do multiple deposits or withdrawals, and we are going to change our interest rate. So it's really important that you focus initially on translating all these English words into a summary on a timeline. Okay, so the first thing we know is that starting at the beginning of our timeline, we deposit 5,700 Rand. 2 years later, okay, so after a period of 2 years, another 1,900 is added to the savings. After 5 years, 5 years after the initial deposit, so in other words, 5 years later, another deposit of 4,100 Rand is made. So essentially there are 3 trips into the bank here. Now the interest rate for the first 3 years, all right? So for the first 3 years, the interest is 13% per annum, compounded quarterly. Not doing any calculations at the moment, I'm simply summarizing the information that's been given to me. The interest rate then decreases to 11.2% per annum, compounded monthly. Calculate how much money has accumulated in the savings account at the end of 8 years. So in other words, 8 years is the end of my timeline. Okay, so we went into the bank 3 times and we haven't had a change in interest rate. So my recommendation would be is that in memory A, you put 13% divided by 4. Okay. 0.13 divided by 4 equals shift store A. All right, that is the value. Then I have a second interest rate, so I need to store it in another memory. Okay, so now I'm going to say, all right, I have 11.2%, 0.112. It's compounded monthly divided by 12 equals. So my monthly interest rate, and this time I'm going to store that in memory B. So I'm going to go shift store B. Right, let's work out what happens to each one of these investments. Always work out every single thing you do right to the end of that 8-year period. Okay, so my future value is 5,700. Initially, it's interest rate A. 1 plus A. It's for a period of 3 years, and the compounding period for A is quarterly. Then what happens, this becomes the new present value annuity at that point, present value investment at that point. And from here onwards, we are using interest rate B. So this becomes 1 plus B. It's for a period of 5 years, and our compounding period is monthly. Our next investment is this 1,900. We went into the bank again with some more money, and so we're starting the process all over again. Initially, that investment is also earning that interest rate. So it's 1 plus A. It's only for a period of 1 year, and our compounding period is quarterly. Thereafter, I use interest rate B, 1 plus B. Okay, from 3 to 8 is 5 years, and it is compounded monthly. My last deposit of 4,100 is made after 5 years. Okay, it is only acted on by interest rate B. Okay, 1 plus B for a period of 3 years, and it is compounded monthly. And now we have to type all this into our calculator. We stored interest rate A and interest rate B. So we have 5,700, 1 plus interest rate A, alpha A, close bracket, raised to the power of 3 times 4, which is 12. Remember to move your cursor because now we're multiplying by 1 plus alpha B, close bracket, raised to the power of 5 times 12. And I'm going to fill in that answer. So we get 14,609.41. I'm going to store that in memory C just so that I don't have to type it in again. Shift, store, C. Okay, just so that you remember, I've put that in memory C. Right, now we have 1,900 bracket 1 plus alpha A close bracket to the power of 1 times 4. To the power of 4. Move your cursor. We are multiplying that by 1 plus alpha B close bracket raised to the power of 5 times 12. And again, I'm going to work that out. And this becomes 3770,43. Shift, store, D. I'm putting that in memory D. The last transaction, 4,100 bracket 1 plus alpha B close bracket raised to the power of 3 times 12. And I have 5,728 and 36 cents. So what do I have all together essentially from those 3 different investments? I'm going to take this value over here, I'm going to add alpha D, and I'm going to add alpha C. And the total amount of money is 24,108 Rand 19.